Hello everybody, this is Jasmina, and in this video I am going to talk about the 6 day day pillars that you could have if you have the Yang water as your day master. Now I'm sure some practitioners out there that basically just use this to predict your life, but that that would be somebody who's just starting out. I'm sure there were also masters that use this as part of their analysis, but they also look at the rest of the chart. And to me, that does make more sense than just looking at your day pillar. But this is possible that this could be quite accurate. Now, how accurate it is for everybody remains to be seen for me. I was a little surprised at how accurate mine was, but it wasn't 100% accurate either. So, I just want to have a general idea so that I can let you know whether or not this is something that's useful for you to analyze other people. Now, you can see a fuller description of what I'm giving here. I just give you a summary. It's from this website, which is actually just an old book put on the web, not like screenshotted, but typed in. And it is a Chinese language website and does decently translate into English for most of the pillars. Sometimes it's a little confusing, but it's better than many other websites. I was actually pretty happy with this one. Now, what is being investigated here is not the Daymaster strength. Your Daymaster strength depends on the season of birth, that is the month that you were born, and the overall balance of elements in your chart. And the Chinese Metasoft site gives this kind of information for you. So you can look at that. Hopefully you haven't done it yet and you can still have a free 2-week trial. What was looking at here is more like support. So we're talking about the day pillar. So you are the day master and the day branch is your spouse. So this is a close relationship, and usually in a relationship, it's kind of one is a little more supportive of the other. Sometimes it's quite balanced, but this is what we're looking at, is support of the day master. And this comes through looking at the heaven stem, that is your day master, and the hidden stems in the earthly branch. So we start with the water rat. Now this is rooted. It is RW. This is the only relationship, that's Rob Wealth, between these two. So there is no energy going back and forth. So this one is a bit interesting. It is rooted, so you think this should lead to a very strong personality. However, they have this thing called the lonely Luan. Now, Luan is that red bird that we talked about in the peach blossom. So they tend not to be able to have good marriages, and this is probably true in general. Now, back then, marriages were often arranged, so but in this case, I think it really means that the marriage will be difficult even today. So even if when you choose your spouse. So this has to do with this lonely Luan. So you tend not to be terribly happy, regardless of who you're married to. There may be some difficulty in being faithful on either person's part, apparently. They also tend to earn what they spend or spend what they earn. So they don't tend to accumulate wealth very easily. And businesses don't make a profit. They don't necessarily bankrupt you, but you don't make any headway. And even though this is rooted, and it seems weird that things like they have a fickle personality, doesn't make sense. It seems like the lonely Luan overrides all of this. And I don't know how true it is. I would really hope there's somebody out there with a water rat as their day pillar to see whether or not this is even close. And if you have that, I would, I'm going to see if I can, in the questionnaire, I'm going to see whether or not I can uh, have have a way to pick your day pillar. I don't know if I can. Um, it would be quite hard though, because since there's 60 of them. So we'll see. Anyway, they just, I mean, they may be good looking, but they have a hard time saving money. They just don't, and it's very weird because this should be a much stronger one. So this, it all seems to do with this lonely Luan that creates all the problems. So this is a more standard way to look at them. This is a water tiger, and it mostly sends energy to the spouse. We have the growth going out, and this is always the strongest. The main chi is always the strongest, but it also has weakening from here and weakening from here. So it doesn't have a lot of support. But this is this is but when I read the thing about it, it's very weird. It doesn't seem to correspond to what you would think, but they are honorable people. That is, they're honest and they're upright and they don't do things that are very wrong. I mean, even though they're not rooted, they don't seem to have a problem with knowing what is right and wrong. And that's could be various things. Some people don't need to be rooted to know that. They also tend to have a happy family life, which perhaps that is because it's what is the old saying, happy wife, happy life. And this is from ancient times when men were the only ones with any power. So this really is more male centric, the interpretation. So this may be why it's true, because they keep their wife happy, so the wife keeps them happy. So this is why they can have a happy marriage. Their wealth tends to be good because they're honest. They don't lie. They don't get fired because they don't lie, and they also are not so outspoken that they offend people. So they they tend to they tend to have a good career, and largely because they do what they say they'll do, and they don't make things up. So that usually leads to a better than average career. So here we have the water dragon. It has rooting, not as strongly rooted as if it were in the main chi, but it's still rooted, and that's good. There is some controlling here, and there's some growth out. So they spend a good amount of their energy learning, which is usually a good thing. But they also have some controlling of their, let's say, variability or their flexibility, because sometimes these people can be too flexible. I mean, a water day master in general can be quite flexible. Sometimes this makes it hard for them, sometimes it doesn't. Now, this one, the time of birth is really, really important. If you're born on the pig hour, that's the best hour to be born on. And then they're very noble. That means they're honest, upright. Um, they do what they say. They can be counted on, which is sometimes a little bit unusual for a water day master, because they tend to be a bit generally a little too flexible. But if they're born on the horse hour, and the horse is fire, this weakens this even more, and so they're the weakest. Now that doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't mean they're not noble. They're just not as strongly noble. They tend to have a some discord between the spouse, and this is an amputation relationship here between in the main chi. So that may be why there is some problems with the spouse. So the marriages tend to be disharmonious, and that may be true even if they're not arranged marriages. So, but they're physically strong. Most of the time, the dragon is a pretty strong one. So this one is a little tricky. This is one that it depends on the time of birth. If you're born any other hour, it's going to be somewhere between these two. But you're still going to be a noble person. That is, you're going to be honest and upright. And it doesn't say anything about wealth, but here your wealth should be at least average, if not better, because you are a noble person. But again, the text in the website doesn't say. So this one is the water horse. And we have just controlling relationships here, and no routine. So this one is probably not quite so good. Now this is a head covering relationship here between in the main chi, which generally creates some good periods, some bad periods. So things are mixed. There's up and downs. It is a little bit weird. It says there can be a lot of discord in the marriage, but your spouse may still help you become more wealthy. So so maybe that's why you stick together. Again, most of the time we were talking about arranged marriages back then, but even nowadays this could be true. So and nothing is really said too much about the personality, but it's so it's not particularly good or bad. It's kind of an average person. And but for whatever reason, their wealth kind of goes up and down, or at least their earning ability goes up and down. So this is the water monkey. There is rooting, and it's the same polarity, so that's pretty strong. They, but perhaps because the metal is growing the water, and this is the strongest relationship, they can be a bit fickle. They can not be very disciplined because water is flexible, and then we also have a controlling, which is a little bit strange that doesn't help counter this, but this is stronger. And we are rooted, so this may be the biggest thing. Now, because they're not very disciplined, sometimes they make bad decisions, and they can have issues because of that. So their wealth could kind of go up and down. But they actually have a tendency to be unfaithful because they're impetuous. They don't have a lot of discipline. So they let's say they're a little bit going with the flow too much. And so there can be problems. Now they tend to be a little bit aggressive in their personality, and that I think comes from being a bit undisciplined. So they can strongly express themselves. Now they tend to be physically active. I'm not quite sure why, but that's what it says. And but in general, they're a little bit impetuous. They don't always make the best of decisions. So it is what it is. This one doesn't make as much sense as some of the others with the relationships, but this is what the text says. And then finally, we have the water dog. Now, this one, of course, all of these that have three usually make quite complicated things, but and there's no grounding here. No rooting. Sometimes it's called grounding, but they still tend to be very honorable, and so they don't seem to suffer from not having the roots, which is good. So their wealth is usually at least average. They it's kind of an unusual thing. They can be quite honorable, but when something can go, if it goes wrong enough, they can actually start breaking the law. And that's probably because they're not rooted. So they can convince themselves that doing something wrong is the right thing to do. So, and a lot of people are like that actually. But they have to undergo some unfortunate circumstances. Now, the military can suit them well because that gives them rules. Because they don't have innate rules, the military can be very good for them. And that's not unusual for people who are a little, who don't have roots. Sometimes the military is really good for them because that gives them order in their life. So that's it. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. And after you've, if you have one of these, if you are a Yang Water Day Master and you have one of these pillars as your day pillar, I would like to know what you think, how accurate it was. And I will have a poll that can tell you something about this. I mean, that will give your opinion of what you think about this. Again, I'm basically passing on information, translating it from Chinese to English. I'm not like supportive or dissupportive of this. I would just like to know whether or not it's relatively accurate. So thanks again for watching.